Welcome back, focus learners, to this explainer. Okay, if you're gearing up for the IELTS exam, you already know the reading section can feel like a total maze. But today, we're going to flip the script. We are setting an energetic, reassuring tone because we are finally taking down the absolute trickiest part of that maze, the dreaded true, false, not given questions. By the time we wrap up this explainer, you're going to have a clear, totally actionable playbook to tackle these questions with absolute confidence. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by conquering the biggest IELTS fear. Then we'll be decoding the answer types, moving on to beware of test setter traps, and finally wrapping up with the winning test strategy. All right, let's jump straight into part 1, conquering the biggest IELTS fear, and really look at why these questions cause so much test anxiety. So why do so many students genuinely fear this specific part of the test? Look, it's a completely valid anxiety. Imagine sitting right there in that exam room. The clock is loudly ticking away in the background, and you realize time is literally your most precious resource. Honestly, I've known absolutely brilliant students who missed their target band scores simply because they burned 10 agonizing minutes rereading the exact same paragraph 5 times over one single question. These reading questions, they are notoriously good at draining that precious time. But why exactly does that happen? Well, the real terror usually comes from one very specific option, not given. Basically, this means you're searching for information that is simply not mentioned anywhere in the text. And think about how incredibly frustrating that is. Most of us are totally used to finding answers that are definitively right or wrong based on what we read, going all the way back to our early school days. We just aren't wired to look for something that simply doesn't exist. So it becomes incredibly easy to waste a huge chunk of time looping over and over the text, endlessly searching for a ghost because you're terrified you just missed it. Which brings us to part 2, decoding the answer types, or basically knowing the rules of the game. Let's quickly nail down the core meanings here so we're all starting on the exact same page. If a statement is true, it completely, 100% agrees with the information in the text. Simple enough, right? If it's false, it actively disagrees with or contradicts the text. And if it's not given, the information just isn't there. You can't prove it true and you can't prove it false. It's just a blank. Now, before we go any further, we really need to highlight a massive point of confusion. On the actual test, you're going to see true, false, not given questions, but you're also going to run into yes, no, not given questions. So are they the same thing? Absolutely not. No way. Treating them as the same is a super quick way to lose easy points. Here's the crucial difference. True, false, not given questions are strictly about factual information. You're evaluating hard, cold facts presented in the text, period. On the flip side, yes, no, not given deals with the subjective opinions, views, or beliefs of the writer. Today, we are focusing purely on facts, and that means you need to leave your personal assumptions at the door and look strictly at the data they're giving you. Okay, moving on to part 3, beware of test setter traps, where we expose the sneaky tricks they love to use. All right, consider this scenario. The first sentence says, Tentian often meets up with her friends, but the second says, Tentian occasionally meets up with her friends. You see what just happened there? A single qualifying word completely alters the whole meaning of the sentence. Actually, test setters use this frequency trap in almost every single IELTS reading paper just because it is so ridiculously effective at catching rushing students. They'll drop often in the text, but then use occasionally in the question statement. If you're rushing, you might just see meets up with friends and instantly mark it true. But because that frequency changed, it contradicts the text. It's false. You always have to watch out for sneaky words like all, some, most, every, or few. And this brilliantly illustrates another classic trap. Words that express possibility versus absolute certainty. For example, the text might say, scientists now claim that several species evolved. But the test statement says, scientists now know that several species evolved. Think about it. A claim is just a possibility, but knowing, that's an absolute fact. Because the statement's meaning is not an exact perfect match to the text, it cannot be true. You have got to be deeply analytical about these little verbs of doubt and certainty. So let's rapid fire through some foundational rules to keep in your back pocket. First off, Answers actually appear in chronological order in the text. That is a huge time saver. Second, whatever you do, don't read the whole text like a novel. Scan for keywords first. Third, and honestly, this is incredibly comforting, there will always be at least one true, one false, and one not given in every set. If you don't have at least one of each, you've definitely made a mistake somewhere. Fourth, expect synonyms and paraphrasing. The test setters are absolutely not going to give you easy word-for-word matches. Remember, you're matching meaning, not vocabulary. And finally, do not use your outside knowledge. I mean it. Even if you're an absolute expert on the topic and you know a statement is scientifically true in the real world, if it isn't explicitly stated in the text, the answer is not given. All right, we're at part 4, the winning test strategy. This is your step-by-step guide to success. Here we go, your definitive 6-step winning process. Step 1, read the instructions and completely understand the meaning of the statements before you even glance at the text. Step 2 is where you apply what we just learned, note those sneaky qualifying words, and actively brainstorm what kind of synonyms the test setters might try to use. Step 3, underline the core keywords right there in the statement. Step 4, take those keywords and quickly scan the text to locate the right neighborhood. Step 5, once you find the location, hit the brakes. Shift gears from scanning to detailed reading of just that specific section so you can make your true, false, or not given decision based on exact meaning. And finally, step 6, move down the page and just repeat the process for the rest. Now, I want to leave you with one absolute golden rule. If you're scanning and you're starting to panic because you are just struggling to find the answer, stop. Seriously, take a deep breath. It is probably not given. You have to trust this strategy here. Don't let the ghost hunt eat up your precious exam time. Make the decision, mark it not given, and move swiftly onto the next question. We've broken down the fears, exposed the traps, and armed you with a rock-solid strategy. So I'll leave you with this. What if the only thing standing between you and your dream university isn't your English proficiency, but simply your test strategy? The tools to conquer that not-giving ghost are now completely in your hands. Test this methodology out on your next practice run, watch your accuracy absolutely soar, and I will see you in our next explainer.